Joel Embiid had 70 points tonight, which was a career high for him. So a dominant night for him. He broke the Sixers franchise record, which was originally held by Wilt Chamberlain. So he got the record. I honestly thought Wilt's record would have been 100 points, but I believe his 100 points happened with the Philadelphia Warriors, which does not count as the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's why Joel's 70 points is a franchise record. Still pretty impressive. Also, another thing to note, his 70-point game was like the third highest for a center in the history of the NBA. Only Wilt Chamberlain and David Robinson has scored more than Joel Embiid. So, with that being said, when I saw David Robinson's name on that list, I remember when I was a kid and he scored 71 points in a regular season game. Granted, the game wasn't televised, that game wasn't, but it made headlines because his 71 points allowed him to clinch the scoring title, which put him ahead of Shaq. And it pissed off Shaq at the time because Shaq knew once David Robinson scored 71 that he pretty much was not going to get the scoring record unless he scored something ridiculous. I think back then he had to score something like 80 points to get the record, so it was out of range for him, which led to some animosity between Shaq and David Robinson that would follow in the upcoming years with the Spurs-Lakers rivalry that would ensue once Shaq left Orlando. So that's one thing to take note of. But when I saw David's name on the list, I was thinking about the parallels between Robinson and Joel Embiid in the sense that their careers have taken similar arcs. If you look at them to a degree, David Robinson, he didn't play in the NBA his first 2 years when he got drafted due to serving his military commitment, while Joel Embiid, I believe, didn't play in his first 2 years in the NBA due to him having a bunch of injuries that would take time to heal, that literally he had to sit out 2 years. So to me, it's very similar. They've also won scoring championships. So the career arcs are very similar. I would say their games are different though. Both of them are great jump shooting bigs. David Robinson had a great mid-range game. Joel Embiid also does. But on top of that, Joel can hit threes. David never could shoot threes back then because it wasn't allowed. But I would say the thing that separates Joel on the offensive end from David is that Joel can play back to the basket, something David Robinson never could. David Robinson's post-up game was very, very weak, I would say, not on that level. David's game was basically shooting the mid-range or slashing the hole with his super athletic abilities. So that was his game. I would say David was a much, much better defensive player than Joel Embiid. He won Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, a few times in his career. So those are like really the differences between the two. But I feel their careers have a lot of similarities. David could not get to the conference finals up until he was about 29 years old. I think Joel Embiid is now 29 or 30, so he might have a chance this year, but it's very similar that both of them were only able to get to the second round for the longest time, and they just couldn't go all the way. And I remember those Spurs teams, David never really had a legit all-star with him. During those years. Sean Elliott made the All-Star game once or twice, I believe, but he was really a fringe All-Star, a really good player, but not a perennial All-Star. And they were just a bunch of role players on that team, but it just never was enough to go all the way. But I also felt David disappeared in crucial moments in the playoffs before Tim Duncan, that he melted against the Jazz. Instead of showing up against them, he definitely really choked against them. He disappeared. I felt against the Phoenix Suns back in '93 in the crucial elimination game, and then in '95 he just got dusted by Hakeem. So he had these moments where just the Spurs would win a lot of regular season games, but they couldn't go far in the playoffs. He just couldn't elevate them. And I feel Joel Embiid has done the same thing the last several years, that the Sixers are winning like 50 games or more, just like those Spurs teams were doing. But you know that they're not gonna go all the way to the championship or do anything. And I feel that's really the case with Joel Embiid, that just he's never been able to seal the deal. He's just never been able to get over that hump and take his team to the next level. Just he's always fallen short in the second round. I think he's gone to 7 games several times now in the second round, but he just can't get further than that point. I felt last year he should have been the Celtics, but just he didn't come through when it really mattered. When he could have put them away in that game 6 and in game 7, it was just wrapped then. Just so I feel that's the similarities between him and David. Just he puts up great numbers, great statistics, is a great scorer, just like David was, but he can't just elevate his team to the next level. And I think that's really the question mark going into the playoffs this year. Like, will he be able to get his team over the hump, or just will it just be the same results like we've been seeing in the past several years, that he'll just get out round 1 and then just in round 2 the Sixers are gone. So until he can really do that or go to the next level, he won't be considered the best player in the league. Just he just has to do it. And only then would I be willing to say he's the best player in the league. Statistically, he has the argument, but it's not about winning when it really matters for him.